What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today, I'm going to talk about something that many people probably expect at this point in time. I want to talk about how the Chicago Bulls are going to spend their money financially over the next few seasons. Now, at the end of the day, the Bulls are known as a stingy organization. And look, it's not just me that says that. There's a lot of people that say that. If, someone has a problem with me saying it, that's completely fine. We know that the Bulls very rarely go into the luxury tax. We know that the Bulls very rarely are looking to spend premium dollar. They are trying to save money as much as possible and all these things, right? And, there's a whole barrage of sell the team movements at the moment. We'll see what comes of that, and I don't think anything's going to come from that. But how are the Bulls going to spend their money realistically over the next few years without insulting the organization? Because, at the beginning of the video, I did enough of that. How would they realistically spend that money? What's going to happen with the Bulls as they start to get a little bit more cap space, but also as they probably start to decide where to move that money and how to maybe fill up the cap space, as well as making the right moves for the team heading into hopefully a more competitive era for the Chicago Bulls. But before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know what you guys think about the Chicago Bulls and where do you think their money is going to be spent financially in the next few seasons. Now, I don't necessarily know the logistics of how much money we're going to have and how we're going to, pay each person individually. I'm talking about it from a broader perspective because there's too many ins and outs to the NBA, especially when it comes to America. It's so different here in Australia than it is in America, but there's a lot of ins and outs about the financial side that I don't know much about. So I don't want to take a deeper dive too much into that. But what I will say is, I think the most obvious thing we're going to do first is re-sign players. I think we're going to use the bulk of the cap space that we have to keep and retain certain guys. So the first one would be Josh Giddey. I'm assuming we are going to be spending, whether it's this season or next, because we don't know if he's going to accept that qualifying offer yet. I'm assuming some of that is going to be spent on Josh Giddey. Now, it could be more in the future. It could be more than the $30 million he's asking for if he plays well. It could be less. When it comes to restricted free agency, he could accept the $23 million, whatever it is on the table. He could not. But I do expect some of our financial capabilities going towards keeping Josh Giddey around. And I do think that's the right decision to do. I wouldn't say overpaying him is the right outcome. I think $30 million is a hefty price, and I don't know if he's worth $30 million. But trying to find that middle ground has always been my suggestion, and hopefully we could do that. And that could be where our, first piece of business will go financially, obviously besides keeping Tre Jones as well. But then the second thing is retaining players. Coby White. Coby White is going to be another player that the Bulls need to consider keeping around. Now, next season is going to tell a lot for Coby White. Not just for the Bulls, but for every team in the NBA. There are going to be many, and I mean this with every sense of the word, many teams that are going to be scouting Coby White next season. They're going to be scouting him as a key scorer. They're going to be scouting him as a potential point guard or shooting guard. They're going to scout him as a winning player. Can he be a winning player? Can he impact winning in a positive way? These are going to be the most important games of Coby White's career because it will determine how much he gets paid and it will determine which teams are going to go after him. If you're, for example, going to maybe have a similar season compared to last season where you're averaging around 24 points per game and, you are impacting winning, but we fall into the play-in tournament bracket again, you might not get paid max money. You might not even get paid the 30, 40 million that a lot of other players may get in a similar age bracket that plays a similar way. But if you come out, you have an all-star level season, the Bulls somehow make the playoffs, and you're averaging 25, 26 points per game in that area, and you impact winning, you could get paid massive money. And if you're the Chicago Bulls, you're going to want to keep a player like that around now, aren't you? How many times are we going to see players like that leave the Chicago Bulls? We shouldn't see that. If the Bulls are good at retaining players and giving financial respect to the players that deserve it, we should be expecting Coby White, depending on the season that he has, to be extended with the Chicago Bulls. It's not to say we're going to keep him around for the next 5 years. We could end up trading that contract. Maybe we trade Josh Giddey. It doesn't, I still think we're in that experimental stage where either one of those things can happen. We can see one of them leave. But I do think it's important to keep them for now. And I think that's where another area of our financial flexibility goes. But then all of a sudden, that flexibility that we have is not so flexible anymore, because you've just spent big money on Josh Giddey. You probably spent big money on Kobe White, and it's not going to be too long from now, you have to spend big money on Matas Buzelis. Now, can the Bulls do that? Sure they can. We have bird rights. We probably have the money to be able to sign all three of them on big deals. But then you ask the question about extending Matas Buzelis, extending Kobe White, extending Josh Giddey. You then begin to ask the question, if all those three on big money and you're potentially heading into that second apron territory, is that team going to bring you wins? Now, in the future, we'll have to see. We don't necessarily know if that team's going to bring us massive success or not. If it does, well, then that's money well spent, in my opinion. Then maybe the Bulls can have the conversation of luxury tax, second apron, and all that sort of stuff. It's important to have that discussion, and if it's worthy enough to have that discussion. If that team doesn't bring you wins, you're going to have to make changes dramatically to free up some of that cap space. And that will include trading either Josh Giddey or Kobe White. That's why a lot of people believe those two will not play together for a long time. It's because they don't believe that team is going to be good enough to get massive success, and you're going to be paying both of them big money. One of them's going to have to go. And if you're going to extend Matas Buzelis, I think it only makes sense for one of those other two guys to go. So that's where our money's probably going to be spent. But you also need to discuss, I guess, in that time frame, Vucevic's 20 million is going to be cleared up by then. We'll probably have to use that money on maybe potential veterans, potential other players that could come in and make a difference on this team that maybe ain't superstars, because 20 million at this point is not going to be a lot of money for a lot of people. So you could use that money to, again, sign those guys, sign those key veterans, and build around the foundation that we have. Patrick Williams, $18 million per season, will probably not be there at that point in time as well. If you're talking about the time to extend Matas Buzelis, that's around the time Patrick Williams' contract is going to come to an end. So that's 18 million off the books every season that you could go. That's a lot of money. You could go and use that on getting a lot of guys as well. So financially, I guess to sum it up, in a way, a lot of our cap space is going to be retaining players. And for many teams, that is going to be the story for the future, because not a lot of teams are going to want to get rid of the current players that they have, especially if they have any sort of potential, because free agency right now is very much a puzzle that people are trying to solve. Not everybody can get the pieces that they want. So for most teams out there in the league, they're going to try to retain players and continue to build around those players. And if it doesn't work, then you have big decisions to make about how to use the money, or I guess how to trade the player to get more money in return so you can start again and start more building blocks and all those things. That's where I see the Bulls using their money. Notice how I didn't really mention much about the luxury tax, and I didn't really mention much about the second apron. I mentioned them, but not much. And that's because I can't honestly tell you if the Bulls are going to go down that direction ever. I genuinely cannot tell you. I can't tell you if the Bulls are going to go into the luxury tax if we're a competing team. Let's just say you pay Kobe White and Josh Giddey, and Matas Buzelis is still on that rookie deal, but we're a playoff team. Maybe even a top 5 team. I can't tell you if the Bulls are going to go into the luxury tax to go and get someone that could truly take us over the top. I can't tell you if the Bulls are going to keep these players for so long that we're discussing the second apron. You see teams like Boston breaking up their team because of the second apron. You see teams like the Pacers breaking up their team because of the second apron. The Bulls would very much be in a very similar conversation if you re-sign all these guys and keep them for long periods of time. So I think most of our money is going to be retaining guys, keeping guys around. But then I also think the second half of that is going to be trying to backpedal, or maybe trying to maneuver, trying to change things dramatically so that we're not paying those luxury sort of tax money, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of where we've always been. But that's where financially I see the Chicago Bulls going in the near and probably distant future as well. Do you agree? Or do you think one team that has shown that it's worthy to compete, all it takes is one team, one Chicago Bulls team, to really shine and show that this is a team that really could have some success? Is that enough for the Bulls to change their mind and to go all in financially and try to win a championship? I'll leave it up to you guys. I'll leave it up to the Bulls organization as well. but it comes down to whatever team we have at that time. They need to prove it, and they need to make the Bulls make that decision. They're not going to make it on their own. There's no point going into the luxury tax this season for a play-in tournament team. There's no point talking about second aprons for a play-in tournament team. But when those conversations become valid is when you're a playoff team, and you're a convincing playoff team at that. You go into the luxury tax for those types of teams. We need to get there first. So that's where we need to go. And financially, that's how we need to get there. Spend money, keep guys, maneuver, whatever it is. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.